She chose her deadbeat brother over my kids. So I canceled the wedding on the spot. She told me to send my grieving kids to boarding school so her freeloading brother could move in. That's when I canceled the wedding on the spot. My name's Jake, I'm 43, and I've been a widower for a while now. I've got two amazing kids. My son, Ryan, is 10, and my daughter, Lily, is 8. Their mom, my wife, passed away 4 years back. It's been rough at times, but the three of us have found our rhythm. We've built a little world of our own, full of routines and quiet moments that somehow keep us steady. About 2 years ago, I met someone. Her name's Melissa. She's 39 now. When she came into my life, it felt like a breath of fresh air. She seemed genuinely empathetic about everything I'd been through. Naturally, the kids were cautious around her at first, which I completely understood. But Melissa really played the part, bringing small gifts for them, asking how their day went, even helping out with schoolwork whenever she was around. After about 18 months, things started to feel serious. I proposed, and we set the wedding for 3 months out. The kids weren't exactly thrilled at the idea of having a stepmom, but they weren't outright rejecting her either. They just seemed unsure. Now, there's one more person you need to know about in this whole mess: Melissa's brother, Trevor. He's around 36, I think. The guy's a walking disaster. Never keeps a job longer than a season, always got some sob story about why he can't get on his feet. Constantly asking for money, looking for a couch to sleep on. And Melissa? She's always bailed him out. Every time. Looking back, that should have been a warning sign. But I told myself it was her family, her problem, so long as it didn't interfere too much with our lives. So yeah, we got engaged, and the wedding prep began. Almost right away, Melissa started bringing up Trevor more often. Stuff like, his lease is ending soon, or he's having a rough time finding a new spot, or he just needs a steady place to land while he gets his life on track. I'd nod along, toss in a few sympathetic grunts, but I didn't dig deeper. My house has 3 bedrooms, one for me, one for Ryan, one for Lily. It works for us. It's not a palace, but it's home. No extra room for a grown man who can't get it together. Then maybe 6 months back, Melissa floated the idea, what if Trevor stayed with us for just a little bit? I shut that down, nicely but firmly. Told her it wouldn't be fair to the kids. Their sense of stability mattered, and we didn't have the space. She let it go, at least, outwardly, but her jaw was clenched, and she didn't look happy. Couple months later, she brought it up again, this time with more force. Claimed the house was plenty big, that Trevor would barely be noticeable. It's just a regular place in the suburbs, nothing fancy. I asked her point blank, where exactly is he gonna sleep? She kind of waved her hand like it didn't matter. I told her again, no, my kids needed consistency. Having a near stranger, especially someone with Trevor's history, living under our roof wasn't happening. That turned into our first real blowout. She accused me of not standing by her family. I made it crystal clear, my children are my priority. Period. The wedding plans marched on, but there was this constant, quiet tension after that. Melissa started making subtle jabs, stuff like, must be nice having the whole house to yourself, or some people don't even give their family a chance. Then 2 months ago, she dropped something that floored me. She said, with a completely straight face, that we could turn the kids' playroom into a bedroom for Trevor. I honestly thought she was kidding. I asked her if she realized what she was saying. Her answer? Trevor really needs this break. I told her my kids need their space to be kids even more. That's when the arguments got more regular and uglier. She started twisting things, saying I was selfish or cold-hearted. She'd go, isn't family supposed to help each other? And I'd tell her, my family is Ryan and Lily. You're supposed to be becoming part of that, not trying to uproot it for your brother. Then, about a month ago, she hit me with what she called her big solution. She sat me down, all serious, and told me she'd figured it out. Said we could send the kids to boarding school. Yeah, boarding school. She claimed it'd be good for them. Top-notch education, help them become independent, and oh bonus, it would free up both bedrooms. Trevor could take one, and the other could be her office or a guest room. She said all this with a smile, like she'd just cracked the code to world peace. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I asked her if she was listening to herself. These were my kids who'd already lost their mom, who were only just starting to feel okay with her being around, and now she wanted to ship them off so her freeloading brother could move in? I tried to keep my tone steady, but inside, I was boiling. She doubled down, said it made perfect sense. That Trevor was family, he was struggling, and we were in a good position to lend a hand. Then she hit me with, "If you really loved me, you'd understand." And she kept going. Said having the kids away during the week, and some weekends, would give us more time together, strengthen our bond. She actually tried to spin it like it was a gift to our relationship. That's when I snapped. Not yelling, at least not at first. I looked her right in the eyes and told her calmly but firmly, there is no chance in hell that my kids are being sent away from their home. Not for Trevor. Not for anyone. This is their safe space. I won't take that from them. She started getting worked up then, said I was being stubborn on purpose. Claimed I didn't care about her happiness or her side of the family. She said if Trevor ended up homeless, that would be my fault. And then she dropped the bomb. She didn't yell, but her voice turned cold. "Jake," she said, "you need to decide what matters more." She looked me dead in the eye and said, "Jake, you have to choose us, our future, and giving Trevor the support he needs, or hanging on to this outdated belief that your kids have to be under your roof every single day." Then she added, "If you can't make this compromise for the sake of our family, then maybe we shouldn't get married. Maybe I can't be with someone so unwilling to bend." I just stared at her, and something shifted inside me. The woman I thought I was going to spend my life with? She was gone. Standing in front of me now is someone who'd throw my kids under the bus to make room for her brother who couldn't even take care of himself. I stood up and told her, "You're right, Melissa. There's not going to be a wedding." Her face froze, anger turned to shock in an instant. She asked, "What are you saying?" "I'm saying it's done," I replied. "The wedding's canceled, and I need you to leave this house. Both of you." Turns out Trevor had shown up earlier that day, probably at Melissa's invitation. He was hanging out in the kitchen, most likely scoping out what he thought would be his new setup. He must have caught a good chunk of the conversation. Melissa was stumbling for words now. "Wait, you can't be serious." "I've never been more serious," I said. "Pack up. I want you and your brother out of here tonight." Then Trevor finally made his presence known. He stepped out from the kitchen doorway and said, "Come on, man, that's harsh. Melissa's just trying to do right by me." He took a few steps closer, but I didn't back down. I moved toward him instead. He's shorter than me, skinny, not exactly intimidating. I looked him in the eye and said, "You really think it's okay to kick two kids out of their rooms? To ship them away from their dad so you can play house here?" Then I pointed toward the door. "Grab whatever you brought with you and get out. Both of you. Now." That's when Melissa broke down and started crying. "Jake, please don't do this. We can talk it through," she said through sobs. I looked at her calmly and replied, "We just did, Melissa. You gave me a choice, and I made it. My kids stay. You and Trevor leave. That's it. There's nothing more to say." I walked over, opened the front door wide, and just stood there. It wasn't pretty after that. Melissa was crying harder now, shifting between begging and lashing out. One second she was pleading with me to reconsider, the next she was calling me names, accusing me of misleading her, saying I'd strung her along. Trevor tried to jump in, too, saying I was being unfair and that Melissa really loved me. I didn't flinch. I just stood there, holding that door open like a bouncer at closing time. I told them they had 10 minutes to leave, or I'd be calling the cops to report them for trespassing. That finally seemed to register with Trevor. He quietly started gathering Melissa's things, some clothes, bathroom stuff, little odds and ends she'd brought in over time. Melissa kept trying to get me to engage, to argue back. But I didn't give her anything. I just kept repeating the same words. "Get your stuff and go." It took nearly an hour. An hour of her crying, him mumbling under his breath, both of them giving me looks like I'd personally ruined their lives. I didn't lift a finger to help. I just watched. Eventually, they stepped out the door. Melissa turned and gave me one last look, something between heartbreak and pure hatred. But I didn't feel anything anymore. I closed the door behind them, and that was that. First thing I did was call a 24-hour locksmith. Got every lock in the house changed that night. It wasn't cheap, but it was worth it for the peace of mind. Melissa still had a key, and I wasn't about to deal with any surprise visits. The next day, I started calling every wedding vendor we'd booked. One by one, I canceled everything. Lost a few deposits, yeah, and that stung. But honestly, it was a small price to pay compared to what could have happened if I'd gone through with that marriage. Explaining things to family and friends? That was awkward. My folks, my late wife's parents, mutual friends, it wasn't an easy conversation. I kept it simple. Melissa and I had a serious disagreement about what was best for the kids. We couldn't get past it. So the wedding was off. Most people were surprised, but they understood. A few of her friends tried calling me afterward, probably to talk me into changing my mind, or maybe to chew me out. I didn't answer. The toughest part was telling the kids. I sat Ryan and Lily down and explained that Melissa wouldn't be living with us anymore and that the wedding wasn't happening. Lily asked why. I told them that Melissa wanted some changes that wouldn't have been good for them, and I wasn't willing to let that happen. Ryan just nodded. He's a quiet kid. Lily looked a little down for a moment, then asked, "Does this mean I don't have to give up the playroom?" I smiled and told her, "Nope. The playroom is all yours again." They actually seemed more relieved than upset. That told me everything I needed to know. Melissa kept trying to reach out for a few days. Voicemails, texts, crying at first, then angry, then back to pleading. I didn't respond. After a week, it all stopped. It's been about 2 months since that night. Things have settled down. The house is quieter. The kids seem more at ease. We've fallen back into our old routines, movie nights on Fridays, building ridiculous Lego towers, Ryan's soccer practices, Lily's weekend art class. Honestly, it feels like I've taken a weight off my chest, even though the whole thing was a storm to get through. I haven't heard directly from Melissa or Trevor since. I figured they were probably staying with one of her siblings or maybe back at her mom's place. Then, just yesterday, I got a call from someone we both knew. Let's call her Rachel. She was friends with both me and Melissa, and she sounded a little hesitant on the phone. Rachel told me she'd bumped into Melissa recently, and things had gone downhill fast for her. Not long after I threw them out, Melissa apparently scraped together enough cash to rent a tiny apartment for herself and Trevor. She used up most of what she had cleared her savings, maybe cashed in some old bonds. She was really trying to keep it all together. Then, about a week ago, Trevor just vanished. Took every last cent Melissa had, drained her bank account, maxed out her credit cards, even pawned a couple pieces of her jewelry, including a necklace that had belonged to her grandmother. He left a note behind saying he was sorry, but he needed to start over, and this was the only way he could do it. Melissa's wrecked now. Broke, about to lose her apartment, and barely holding herself together. According to Rachel, she's just not functioning. Rachel never came out and directly asked me to step in or do anything, but the undertone was pretty clear. She kept going on about how terrible Melissa's situation was, how she'd lost everything, her savings, her brother, her stability. And here's the thing. The reason I'm writing all this down now. I listened. I nodded. I even said, "Yeah, that's awful." And I meant that, at least on a human level. What happened to her is objectively awful. But if I'm being completely honest, I don't feel much. No real sympathy. No desire to step in. Nothing. Actually, there's a small, uncomfortable part of me that feels, well, not satisfied exactly, but something like grim validation. Melissa made her choice. She put Trevor ahead of my kids, ahead of me, ahead of basic logic. And Trevor did exactly what anyone with an ounce of common sense would have expected him to do. He used her, drained her, and left her in pieces. Does that make me a terrible person? Am I supposed to feel bad for her? Because truthfully, I don't. Not even a little. I just needed to say that out loud. Or at least get it off my chest. And I'm wondering, am I the only one who would feel this way? Update 1. Hey, everyone, Jake here again. It's been around 3 weeks since I posted that first part. First off, thank you. Really? I wasn't expecting that kind of response, let alone so much support. I read through every comment, and it helped more than I can explain. I honestly thought I might get torn apart for sounding heartless, but most of you really understood where I was coming from. It's just good to know I'm not alone in how I see all this. A lot of people had questions, so I figured I'd circle back and clear up some of the most common ones. About my late wife. A few of you gently asked about what happened to her, and I appreciate how kind you were with the wording. I don't talk about it much, mainly because it still hurts, but it's a big part of why I am the way I am with my kids. She passed away 4 years ago in a car crash. A drunk driver hit her head on. She was gone instantly. She was on her way home from work, and then, just gone. Ryan and Lily were still so little at the time. It completely shattered everything. Trying to help 2 small kids understand why their mom wasn't coming home, while barely holding myself together, that kind of pain leaves a permanent mark. It's why I'm so firm about keeping their home stable, their routine sacred. That's non-negotiable for me. Were there red flags with Trevor before this all exploded? Absolutely. Plenty. But none of it had directly affected me or the kids because I kept a clear boundary in place. Still, I'd heard the stories from Melissa. He got fired from a job for stealing from the register. Totaled someone else's car and then took off. Borrowed money from every relative he could and never paid a cent back. The list was long. And Melissa? She always had a justification. He's had it rough. He means well. He just needs a break. It never seemed to matter that her own upbringing wasn't any easier, yet she didn't turn out the same way. She was always the one sweeping up after him. Looking back, I think she saw me as the next safety net, someone to take over her role so she didn't have to carry it alone anymore. Big mistake on her part. Her financial situation. Before Trevor robbed her blind, Melissa had a decent job. She wasn't rich, but she was doing fine, some savings, manageable expenses. The bonds she cashed were something her parents had set up for her years ago. She wasn't living paycheck to paycheck, but she definitely wasn't rolling in it either. Setting up that apartment with Trevor took a chunk out of what she had. Add in the wedding deposits, venue, catering, photography, it's no surprise she ended up drained. Some vendors gave partial refunds. Others, not a dime. Sure, it stings, but honestly, I see it as a buyout fee for peace and clarity. It's way cheaper than a divorce would have been, and I'll take that trade any day. Why do I think she kept enabling Trevor? I've thought about this a lot, long before I ever made that first post, and I still don't have a neat answer. Maybe she felt responsible for him, maybe guilt, maybe it was just habit. But whatever it was, it cost her everything. Maybe it was guilt, maybe some kind of warped sense of family loyalty. Or maybe Melissa was afraid of how Trevor's constant failures might reflect on her. Or worse, maybe she truly believed every one of his sob stories, no matter how ridiculous they sounded. I honestly don't know the psychology behind it. But with Trevor, it was like she had this massive blind spot. She either couldn't see him clearly, or she refused to. A few folks asked if Trevor got physical when I told them to leave. Not quite a fight, but close enough. When I told him to get out, he puffed himself up, tried to act tough. Said something along the lines of, "You can't just throw us out, Melissa's your fiancée." Then he stepped toward me, like he was trying to square up or push his way past. I didn't yell, didn't flinch. I just stepped toward him. I looked him in the eye and said, calm as anything, she was my fiancée. Now she's someone who needs to pack her things and leave my property, and so do you. Go ahead and test me. Whatever he saw in my face, it made him rethink whatever dumb plan he had, because he backed off real fast. Trevor's all talk, no backbone. Just a leech looking for his next host. I was fully prepared to drag him out if I had to, but I didn't need to. It fizzled out after that moment of tension. Reading everyone's comments afterward just confirmed what I already knew deep down. I made the right call. Not just for my kids, but for me. Some of you pointed out other red flags I missed with Melissa, outside of the Trevor mess. Like how fast she wanted to change our whole family structure to suit her own ideas instead of actually becoming a part of what we already had. That hit hard. Because it's true. As for everything that happened after, yeah, I've played it back in my head a few times. And look, I still have empathy. I don't enjoy seeing anyone suffer. On a basic human level, yeah, it sucks that Melissa's life fell apart. But do I feel guilty? Regretful? Do I feel like I should have done something differently? Not even a little. She made a conscious choice to put her freeloading brother above the man she said she loved and above two grieving kids who were finally starting to feel stable again. She took that risk. And she lost. That the same brother she defended and enabled was the one who burned her? It's tragic. Yeah, but it was also inevitable. Someone in the comments said something that really stuck with me. You didn't cause her downfall. You just refused to be her solution. And that hit me straight in the chest. That's exactly it. I wasn't put on this planet to clean up Melissa's bad decisions, especially not when they came at the expense of my children's well-being. After Rachel's first call, I sat with it for a few days. Thought maybe that would be the end of it. But then she called again, and this time, she came right out with it. She said Melissa was in a dire spot, close to being out on the street, and she asked if I could find it in my heart to help. Just a little. Maybe cover a month or two of her rent. You know, for old time's sake. I let her talk. Then I calmly said, no. I told Rachel, Melissa made her choices. She thought her brother was more important than my kids or our future. She wanted me to send my children away so he could take over their rooms. That's not something I can forgive or forget. Her situation now? That's the result of her own actions. And Trevor's. It's not on me to undo that. Rachel got cold after that. Told me I was being harsh, that I wasn't showing any compassion. I responded, I'm being realistic. I'm protecting my family. My kids will always come first. Always. Melissa knew that. She just didn't respect it. I also reminded Rachel that Melissa has other family, parents, maybe a sister. If anyone wants to help her, that's their choice. But I'm not the safety net here. Before hanging up, I told her firmly but politely that I didn't want any more updates on Melissa's situation. I've moved on, and I plan to keep it that way for my peace of mind and for my kids." She grumbled, said, "Fine," and ended the call. I haven't heard from her since. After that, I blocked Melissa's number. I hadn't done it earlier because she'd stopped calling, but after Rachel got involved, I figured it was only a matter of time before Melissa reached out again. I didn't want to deal with it. I also removed and blocked her on every social media account we were still connected on. Clean break. And you know what came next? Peace. Just a quiet, steady sense of peace in my home. The tension's gone. The kids are smiling again. Ryan's been asking about summer camp lately. We're healing. Lily's been drawing pictures of us lately, just the three of us. Smiling, happy. That says everything you need to know. A few days ago, I got a call that caught me off guard. It was Melissa's mom. No idea how she got my number, probably from Melissa herself. I braced for drama, but it didn't come. She didn't yell or guilt trip me. She just sounded tired. She asked if I had any idea where Trevor was. I told her no, I didn't. She sighed and said he'd pulled stuff like this before, but never to this extent. She didn't ask for anything from Melissa. I think she just needed to vent to someone who actually understood the mess from the inside. I kept it short, respectful, but distant. Told her I was sorry her family was going through it, but I wasn't part of it anymore. She said she understood. Honestly, it was way more civil than I ever expected. So yeah, life goes on. Actually, it's better. Update 2. Hey folks, Jake here again. This'll probably be the last chapter in this particular story. It's been just over a year since I first shared everything, and close to 11 months since my last update. And in that time, life has been refreshingly normal. Peaceful. Thank God for that. Things at home are steady, and normal feels downright amazing these days. Ryan's 11 now. He just wrapped up 5th grade and absolutely crushed it. Lily turned 9, and she's diving headfirst into gymnastics. She's got this confident little fire in her now. They're happy. Truly. They rarely bring up Melissa anymore. And when they do, it's in this vague, distant tone, like, "Oh yeah, that lady dad almost married." No drama. No pain. Just a blip in the past that doesn't weigh on them anymore. And that's how I know I handled it right. I protected them. I made the hard choices, and it paid off. As for me, I'm doing well. Work keeps me busy, and the kids keep me grounded. I haven't really jumped back into dating. Not because I'm afraid, just because I'm not in a rush. What happened with Melissa taught me a lot. I'm way more cautious now, way more alert to red flags. If I ever do get serious again, it'll have to be with someone exceptional, someone who gets it, who understands that my kids are, without question, priorities 1, 2, and 3. That's non-negotiable from now on. Now, as for Melissa and Trevor, I didn't go digging for info. But you know how small towns and mutual connections work. Bits and pieces find their way to you, even when you're not looking. Most of what I've heard came before I cut off contact with Rachel. And one piece came from a random, awkward run-in. As far as anyone knows, Trevor's still out there somewhere, completely off the grid. Still vanished with all of Melissa's money. Her family hasn't heard a word from him. He's probably out there running the same con on someone else. Good riddance to bad rubbish, as my grandfather used to say. Melissa, though, things haven't gone well. After Trevor cleaned her out, she did end up getting evicted. Rachel had mentioned it was coming, and she wasn't wrong. Melissa moved back in with her parents for a while, but it didn't last. Things were strained, apparently always had been. From what I've heard, Melissa blamed them for how Trevor turned out, which obviously didn't go over well. About 6 months ago, I had a strange, almost surreal moment. Ryan and I were picking up supplies at a hardware store in the next town, working on a treehouse project, and I saw her. Melissa. She was working as a cashier. She looked worn down, tired, just standing behind the register in that oversized store vest. Her hair was thrown back in a ponytail, none of the styling or polish she used to care so much about. She noticed me while I was in line. There was this flicker in her eyes, recognition, maybe embarrassment. Could have been anger. I didn't stick around to find out. I quietly switched lines, paid at a different register, and left. We didn't say a word to each other. It felt like seeing a ghost from another life, one I wasn't expecting and had no interest in revisiting. Later, at a local community event I got dragged to, some overly chatty acquaintance, one of those people you wish you could avoid, cornered me. She told me Melissa's situation had gotten worse. Apparently, she's renting a tiny, rundown apartment now, scraping by, barely able to pay the bills. Word is, she's lost touch with most of her old friends, either because she keeps asking them for money or because she's just too bitter for anyone to be around. That job at the hardware store? She lost it a while back. The stress, the missed shifts, the spiral, it all caught up with her. And now? That cashier gig was probably the only work she could find. Look, I don't take any joy in hearing that. There's no real satisfaction in watching someone fall apart. I don't feel good about it. But I also don't feel responsible for any of it. But as much as I don't feel joy over Melissa's situation, I can't say I feel sorry for her either. I really don't. She orchestrated this mess herself. She had a solid, stable future with me and 2 kids who were starting to open up to her, or she could throw the dice on her irresponsible brother. She chose the gamble, and the consequences followed. Trevor may have been the spark, but Melissa built the pile of wood and soaked it in gasoline. Her downfall wasn't just bad luck, it was a direct result of her own decisions. I had one final brush with the fallout, not from her directly, but connected to her. About 2 months ago, I got a letter in the mail. It was from a law office, not aggressive, just a formal request. Apparently, Melissa was filing for bankruptcy or being pursued by creditors, and they were trying to track down any assets or joint financial ties she might still have. They wanted to know if she had any ownership, legal interest, or shared accounts connected to me or my home during our engagement. I wrote a short response. Very matter-of-fact. Ms. Last name has no financial or property interests at my address. Any shared plans or ventures ended the day she left. We have no joint accounts. That was the end of that. No follow-up. No drama. And that was, in every sense, the closing of the book. Life now? It's good. The kids are thriving. That's all the reassurance I'll ever need. I went through some dark and messy parts of life during that whole situation, but I stood by what mattered, my kids. I made the hard calls, and I'd make them again. No regrets. To those of you who followed along, offered thoughts, support, or even just listened, thank you. I didn't expect strangers online to help me think straighter in the middle of all that chaos, but you did. It meant a lot. This is the last update from me. I'm moving forward, and it finally feels like there's no baggage left to carry. Time to focus on what matters most, raising my kids. And finishing the treehouse. Take care, Jake.